You stand accused of treason. How do you answer these charges? Lord Baelish.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 satisfying moments in Game of Thrones.
Sir Brienne of Tarth, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
For this list, we're looking at standout moments on this HBO fantasy series that checked all the right boxes for us. And of course, if you haven't watched the show, consider this your spoiler alert. Any satisfying moments we missed? Let us know in the comments. Number 20. Tyrion slaps Joffrey. Game of Thrones made sure that we hated Joffrey from the beginning, and hate him we did. But the show also made sure that we got some gratifying moments of comeuppance to go along with it.
Your absence has already been noted.
The boy means nothing to me. Oh, I can't stand the wailing of women.
One word, and I hit you again.
I'm telling Mother.
In the second episode, Joffrey is characteristically unfeeling when Bran falls from the high tower and into a coma. Tyrion, already establishing himself as one of the best characters on the show, corrects him with 3 slaps for the price of 1.
Do you understand?
You can't.
Do you understand?
If you thought 3 more seasons of Tyrion dealing with his petulant nephew would go slapless, though, think again. After Joffrey is rightfully slung with cow dung, Tyrion has to curb the king's temper tantrum the only way he knows how.
You're talking to a king!
And now I've struck a king. Did my hand fall from my wrist?
Number 19. Jaime saves Brienne. Easily one of the best and most unexpected friendships on Game of Thrones is that of Jaime Lannister and Brienne of Tarth. Granted, Jaime's going through a tough time in Season 3 due to the loss of his hand, but Brienne is surprisingly there to help him through his dark period as he deals with the loss.
When Catelyn Stark released you, we both made a promise to her. Now it's your promise. You gave your word. Keep it.
It looks like Jaime and Brienne are going to part ways for good, but when the former learns the latter has been put in danger, he races back to rescue her.
Behind me.
In a twisted recreation of the Bear and the Maiden Fair folk song, Brienne's been callously placed in a pit with the creature. A one-handed Jaime jumps in after her, buying time for both to escape. Number 18. Theon kills Myranda. Ramsay Bolton is easily one of the most despicable characters on the show. And while his servant-slash-lover Myranda doesn't get as many opportunities for evil, their relationship is proof that crazy attracts crazy. During her time on the show, Myranda abets Ramsay in his many sadistic exploits, including turning Theon into the meek and submissive Reek. Theon may not have been the most likable character beforehand, but no one deserves his treatment, so even we were happy to see him get some retribution.
You can't die. Your father was Warden of the North, and Ramsay needs you. Though I suppose he doesn't need all of you.
During a battle at Winterfell, Myranda and Theon corner Sansa, with the former intending to cause serious pain. Finally, Theon stands up for both of them and throws Myranda off the rampart to her doom. Sweet, sweet justice. Number 17. The Cave.
Egret! Seven hells!
Jon Snow has been through quite a lot since leaving Winterfell, but fate finally gave him a break when he met the wildling Ygritte.
Your friends are nowhere close.
I'll find them.
Despite their opposing backgrounds, the two eventually fall for each other. The kiss they share atop the wall is definitely a sweet moment, but it just doesn't compare to when Jon breaks his vow and makes love to her in a cave. There's definitely an abundance of sex in Game of Thrones, but few of those scenes has been as sweet and emotional as this moment in the cave. The intensity of the scene and genuine chemistry between Jon and Ygritte makes the whole affair not only steamy, but also quite beautiful. Number 16. Littlefinger throws Lysa through the moon door. Littlefinger is a pretty horrendous person, but at least we enjoy watching his scheming ways. Lysa Arryn, on the other hand, not so much.
It's fascinating what happens to bodies when they hit the rocks from such a height.
The impact breaks them right apart, like eggs dropped on the floor.
Lysa has always been a vindictive and jealous woman, especially when it comes to her sister Catelyn and eventual husband Littlefinger. So, when Lysa witnesses Littlefinger creepily kiss Catelyn's daughter Sansa, you know she's gonna throw a hissy fit.
You kissed Peter.
I didn't. You don't understand.
Saw you. You can't lie to me because I saw it with my own eyes.
He kissed me. I pulled away.
Liar!
Blaming the completely wrong person, Lysa threatens to throw Sansa out the Erie's moon door to her death hundreds of feet below, but Littlefinger talks her down. In a savagely satisfying moment, Littlefinger outright rejects Lysa's affections before giving her a taste of her own medicine.
I have only loved one woman. Only one. My entire life. Your sister.
We love wondering what went through her head on the way down. Number 15. Jon's parentage reveals. A long-standing fan theory was that R plus L equals J meant that the supposed coupling of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark resulted in the birth of Jon Snow. This, of course, would have major implications on the world at large. So imagine our satisfaction when it turned out to be true.
If Robert finds out, he'll kill him. You know he will. You have to protect him. Promise me, Ned. Promise me.
In the season 6 finale, Bran has a vision that takes him to Jon's birth, confirming Lyanna's motherhood. Of course, that was just half of the equation, and it wouldn't be until the next season that Rhaegar's involvement was confirmed, which made us even more giddy.
Jon isn't really my father's son. He's the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and my aunt Lyanna Stark.
Still, it was a bit of a double-edged sword, as with it came the knowledge that Dany is Jon's aunt, which makes the same episode very complicated. Number 14. Brienne is knighted. Season 8 was and remains very polarizing, but one moment fans can agree works completely is Brienne being knighted.
You're not the knight?
Women can't be knights.
Why not?
Tradition.
As a woman, Brienne's dream of knighthood was consistently scoffed at, despite her being worthier and more capable than most men. After Brienne vouches for Jaime's character to the Queen of Dragons herself, Jaime later returns the favor and rights a wrong that's much overdue.
You don't need a king. Any knight can make another knight. I'll prove it.
In the lead-up to the Battle of Winterfell, the subject of Brienne's knighthood is brought up. Realizing he has the authority to change her status, Jaime has Brienne kneel and knights her himself.
Arise, Brienne of Tarth, a knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
It's an emotional moment, and seeing the pure joy in Brienne's eyes is everything we could have wanted. Number 13. Tyrion kills Tywin. Tywin Lannister is both a ruthless tyrant and a complete badass. We certainly respect him for his ability to command and his unrelenting devotion to the legacy of his house.
Hold fast!
Hold fast!
What are you doing? We need to attack them!
Hold fast!
However, fans will likely never forgive him for his treatment of his son Tyrion. Humiliated and verbally abused his whole life, Tyrion's breaking point comes when he realizes that his own father has not only sentenced him to death, but also turned the love of his life Shae against him and slept with her. As expected, Tyrion is both enraged and heartbroken by this revelation, and this ultimately leads to the father-son confrontation in a privy that would be their last. A Lannister always pays his debts.
You're no son of mine. I am your son. I have always been your son.
Number 12. Daenerys rides Drogon. We knew it was only a matter of time before Dany got on the back of one of her dragons, but Game of Thrones definitely made us wait for it. Still, when it finally happened in Season 5, no one was complaining. here, Dany is watching battles in Meereen's fighting pit when the Sons of the Harpy suddenly attack. Outnumbered, it looks like some of our favorite characters will perish when they hear the fortuitous sound of a dragon. In swoops Drogon, who begins decimating the nascent threat. As if the moment wasn't badass enough, Dany finally manages to tame Drogon into letting her ride him out of the pit. This is Game of Thrones fan service done right. Number 11, Jon's resurrection.
Apologies for what you're about to see.
Jon Snow's murder practically broke the internet, as fans were forced to wait until season 6 to find out if their favorite bastard would eventually be brought back to life. Resurrection was always a possibility in the minds of eager fans, especially after we saw what the Red Priests could do thanks to the power of the Lord of Light.
But not today.
At the urging of Sir Davos, Melisandre attempts to bring the fallen Lord Commander back from the dead. Alas, the Red Woman seems to have failed, and as the episode draws to a close, we're treated to a lingering shot of Jon's corpse, which ends when he draws his first breath of new life. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief as Jon's eyes finally reopened. Number 10, Olenna's confession. Probably more than any other character, Olenna Tyrell is one we could have used more from, even though she makes it all the way to season 7. But while several Game of Thrones favorites meet their ends, no one goes out like an absolute boss quite like Olenna.
I did unspeakable things to protect my family, or watch them being done on my orders. I never lost a night's sleep over them.
After Jaime leads the Lannister forces in easily taking Highgarden, Olenna knows her time has come. Despite being critical of Jaime and Cersei, Olenna gets the former to give her a painless poison. After taking it, Olenna proudly reveals that she was the one who killed Joffrey and set in motion so much suffering for the Lannisters. Before dying, she tells Jaime to make sure Cersei knows it was her.
Tell Cersei. I wanted to know it was me.
Mic dropped. Number 9, The King in the North.
You were named for my Aunt Lyanna. Who said she was a great beauty. I'm sure you will be too.
I doubt it. My mother wasn't a great beauty or any other kind of beauty. She was a great warrior, though.
The breakout character from the 6th season was by far the young ruler of Bear Island. Yes, she may be a small child, but we soon learn that Lyanna Mormont has more guts than most of the Northern Lords combined, and does not take crap from anyone.
Why should I sacrifice one more Mormont life for someone else's war?
She's one of the first to pledge her loyalty to Jon, but her crowning moment comes after the reclaiming of Winterfell, where she calls out all those that failed to align themselves with the Starks, only to then inspire them by proclaiming Jon Snow to be the true king in the North. For such a little girl, she sure makes one hell of an impact.
We know no king, but the king in the north whose name is Stark. I don't care if he's a bastard. Ned Stark's blood runs through his veins. He's my king, from this day until his last day.
Number 8, A Crown for a King.
Keep away from me!
Viserys, please.
Viserys Targaryen is not a good brother by any stretch of the imagination. Hiding behind his name and selling his own sister in exchange for an army, he believes he's owed the Iron Throne as a birthright. Unfortunately, his plans come undone when Daenerys and her Dothraki husband Khal Drogo end up actually falling in love. In a drunken rage, Viserys threatens her unborn child during a celebration. This proves to be a fatal mistake, as Khal Drogo doesn't take too kindly to this.
No! No! You cannot touch me!
He has his Blood Riders break Viserys' arm before they hold him down and give him the crown he's always wanted, in the form of burning hot molten gold. That's gotta hurt.
A crown for a king.
Number 7, Cersei burns them all. Cersei became the real villain of Game of Thrones in the later seasons, and seeing her reap what she sowed at the hands of the High Sparrow does lead to some satisfying moments here and there. However, Cersei's inevitable rise back to power leads to one of the show's most shocking moments, so much so that we can't not be satisfied by it.
Cersei understands the consequences of her absence, and she is absent anyway, which means she does not intend to suffer those consequences. The trial can wait. We all need to leave.
With Cersei set to be put on trial, virtually everyone is gathered in the Great Sept. However, with Cersei's absence, it becomes evident something else is brewing. Indeed, a cache of wildfire is ignited, obliterating the Sept and taking out all of Cersei's enemies in King's Landing in one fell swoop. Honestly, we've never seen such an awesome power play. Number 6, The Purple Wedding.
Good. Needs washing down.
Joffrey Baratheon will go down in history as one of television's most hated villains. Despite being so young, his sadistic nature, murderous habits, cowardice, and the abuse he inflicts on Tyrion and Sansa make him an utterly detestable king. Season after season, fans cried out for this little bastard to bite the dust, and the creators answered in spectacular fashion. On the day of his wedding, during one of his normal tirades, the boy king succumbs to a poison known as the Strangler.
It's nothing.
While he was deserving of a much harsher death, watching the tyrant struggle to breathe as his body is left as nothing more than a grotesque husk is wholly satisfying. Number 5, Tyrion on trial. Few would argue that Tyrion Lannister is the best character on Game of Thrones, and while almost every episode is filled with his profound musings and witty dialogue, nothing will ever top his appearance in court. With Tyrion erroneously on trial for the murder of Joffrey Baratheon, several characters give baseless testimonies against him. Incensed, Tyrion demands a platform to confess. Instead, he confesses to not being the monster everyone thinks he is, laying out some hard truths about the way people see him.
I'm guilty of being a dwarf.
You're not on trial for being a dwarf.
Oh, yes I am. I've been on trial for that my entire life.
As baleful as Tyrion's remarks are, we're absolutely in his corner as Peter Dinklage gives the performance of his career. Seriously, you would be hard-pressed to find a Game of Thrones moment as dramatically compelling as this.
I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you. I would gladly give my life to watch you all swallow it.
Number 4, Avenging the Red Wedding.
You're not one of mine, are you?
No, my lord.
Walder Frey quickly established himself as one of Game of Thrones' most detestable characters after he hosted and helped organize the deaths of Robb and Catelyn Stark, not to mention Robb's pregnant wife. Vengeance for the Starks comes unexpectedly, however, as a nameless servant reveals to Frey that she's killed and baked his sons into a pie.
They weren't easy to carve.
This revelation is quickly followed by another, when the servant girl exposes herself as none other than Arya Stark, who then proceeds to avenge her mother and brother. Her killing of Trant and reclaiming of her name may be worthy of praise, but this death is particularly satisfying. Number 3, Littlefinger falls off the ladder. Littlefinger spent his whole life conspiring against and manipulating people into getting what he wants, using chaos to climb the ladder that is power. So, it was only a matter of time before that chaos came back to bite him for good.
Sometimes, when I try to understand a person's motives, I play a little game. I assume the worst.
During his time at Winterfell, Littlefinger tries to pit Sansa and Arya against each other, sowing distrust in each. Eventually, Sansa seems to confront Arya in the Great Hall, only to turn the spotlight on Littlefinger.
You conspired with Cersei Lannister and Joffrey Baratheon to betray our father, Ned Stark. Thanks to your treachery, he was imprisoned and later executed on false charges of treason. Do you deny it?
I deny it.
Turns out the Stark sisters have been wise to Littlefinger's ways and promptly put him on trial for 7 seasons of betrayals.
I loved your mother since the time I was a boy.
And yet he betrayed her.
I loved you. More than anyone.
And yet he betrayed me.
Littlefinger can only blubber and beg for his life before Arya swiftly ends him in one of the show's most satisfying moments. Number 2. The End of the Slave Masters.
Zadrizes buzdaris gosdaur.
During Daenerys' visit to the city of Astapor, she's greeted by a slave master whose vocabulary mostly consists of slurs, slander, and insults towards her. And to this point, as viewers, we're all under the impression that Dany has no idea what he's talking about, and that trading one of her dragons, even for an army like the Unsullied, is a huge mistake. It turns out that Daenerys Stormborn is no fool, and is able to understand the slaver the whole time due to her fluency in High Valyrian. She rewards his malicious words by letting Drogon rain fiery hell down upon him and all his cohorts. With the Masters finally dead, Dany and her new army of Unsullied march on. Ramsay Bolton.
I think that sounds like a wonderful idea.
You gotta give credit to Ramsay. He faces some stiff competition on his way to becoming the most sadistic antagonist in Westeros. Nevertheless, we have to bestow that honor upon the bastard. He tortures Theon, abuses Sansa, has his stepmother and newborn brother fed to the hounds. The list of atrocities he's perpetrated goes on and on. Watching Jon beat his face bloody is definitely worth celebrating, as is the taking back of Winterfell, but Ramsay's ultimate fate is the cherry on top of it all. As revenge for all the pain he put her through, Sansa unleashes Ramsay's own starving hounds upon him. We all share Sansa's smile as we hear his screams of pain. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips